What's up guys, it's Oblivious Gamer here, and well, it seems we are finally at the end of our journey here, with the final volume of Gundam Battle Operations Code Fairy being released. It's been quite the adventure, and if I'm being honest, I've been quite surprised, as for my volume 1 review is almost reaching at 4,000 views, which I'm actually extremely happy with, and also how positive it has been received. So I'm very thankful for the way everybody has been interacting with that video, but hey, we're not here to talk about that. The questions are right now. So the final volume, was it worth it? Was the story good? And well, before we find out, if you like the content, don't forget to subscribe. In the review, I will mostly talk more about the story. Of course, I will mention the gameplay, but again, the gameplay hasn't really changed from Volume 1 to Volume 3. And of course, having its similarities to Gundam Battle Operations 2, there really isn't much to address here. So if you were expecting any changes for the gameplay, well, you would be disappointed because it's still the same here. Of course, with movement feeling a bit better than Battle Operations 2 and the pilot skills and some extra changes in the UI, but other than that, it's Battle Operations 2. The final chapters are sure something. I feel there are things that end up being okay for the plot, but there are plot points that just feels too rushed to have an impact. Like, there's a twist at the beginning of Volume 3. For me at least, I don't feel it had that much of an impact. For example, there's supposed to be this traitor amongst Noisy Fairy, but when you see who it is, number one, I feel it's not as impactful as it's meant to be, and number two, it's solved fairly quickly. It's solved in 10 minutes. Like, okay. Or for example, when we find out about Alma and her being part of the Flanagan Institute, but again, that's just brushed off fairly quickly. Despite having 15 chapters in total between Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, there are just some moments that feel rushed, which again leads them to not having the impact they're meant to have. At least for me. Now, don't get me wrong. Personally, I came out satisfied and I liked the story. But as a reviewer, at least I feel I have to be also critical and tell you this won't be for everyone. One of the greatest plot aspects of Gundam and the UC story is how, as you learn and follow the plot, you realize there's just so much gray area. It's not black and white, as some people would seem to be. Just as the Earth Federation has its heroes, good guys, and reasons, so does Sion. Earth Federation also has awful and evil people too. And again, they try to show that in the game in the last volume, but it just doesn't hit as it's supposed to. I mean, they try to show the gray areas and how both sides have good and bad. But I just think, again, 15 chapters aren't enough, at least the way this was told. Maybe again, it could be me expecting more or wanting more character development, because a lot is solved fairly quickly. It's kind of like you're in a sprint, when this is supposed to be a marathon. It's supposed to be something progressive, and it's like, oh, this is introduced, and then like by the end it's like it's already solved. Now I do have to say, I feel story-wise Volume 3 feels a lot better and much more interesting than Volume 2. Of course, with this being the conclusion, we will be seeing how characters end up, and of course, how the story ends. Now, if you come here expecting a amazing story, I don't think this game is there. It's not bad. Like I said, it's okay, but this is not something that's like, holy shit, this is one of the greatest story. This is a really good story that focuses on the Sion's perspective of the war. Like, for me, the story felt okay. As I mentioned, it has its ups and downs. There are moments that it shines, as there are moments that it's not that good. But I feel if you have been enjoying Volume 1 and Volume 2, I feel you will come out of Volume 3 satisfied with the story and how it was concluded. As I also at least feel it doesn't leave much room to continue the story of Alma and Noisy Fairy, pretty much concluding this saga with Volume 3. Personally, there's a lot I want to talk about the story, so I feel I will do a final review where I go over the entire story, like I put volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3 together with my thoughts, as I want to keep this review more focused on volume 3 as an individual package. Now when it comes to the gameplay, of course, it's Battle Operations 2, not much has changed from Volume 1 and 2, but I feel since we get the new bubble suits originally in Volume 2, the fights are a bit more enjoyable since they are more fun to use, they're more mobile, they have more weapons, and of course, by this point of the story, you also have more parts to upgrade them and you get like the level 3 version of the mobile suit, which again, is much more fun. Also, your characters are leveled up and you have more abilities to choose from. So I feel gameplay wise, this is like the most satisfying, at least for me, because we have more tools. Now the mission structure is still the same, it hasn't changed. Every chapter has 2 missions. Most of the time the missions will be eliminate all the enemies or protect, a cargo or protect something. And the occasional boss fight, which isn't that grandiose to be honest. I feel it's very regular. The AI as always is not that smart. But it's not as annoying as I felt them in Volume 2. There is still one mission that feels really annoying due to the AI, since you have no help and you have to deal with the AI that's just swarming against you, especially how laser focused they are towards you. I feel Volume 3 didn't have tutorials at all compared to other volumes, which is fine. Once you have done the story, there is of course some side story missions, which it's like 2 per volume, so again, not a lot. And it's mostly a mission, so it's like, oh, you get like cutscenes and stuff. And you get some missions and matches that you can do in Combat Simulator. I do want to praise the amount of mobile suits in Gundams you have access, or that you can get to use in Combat Simulator. I really feel there were a lot, which I can really see people putting hours just doing the missions and trying out the variety of mobile suits available. Overall, the story will take you 4 to 5 hours for Volume 3. Now, for $19.99, is this a good individual package for Volume 3? Of course, at this point, you do need Volume 1 and Volume 2. So despite the story having its weakness and problems, which I will get to in another video, I feel Volume 3 is a lot better story-wise than Volume 2. I feel a lot more happens and it's a little bit more engaging. I mean, I feel gameplay differences are not that big. You get an improved mobile suit, but that is really much it. So I don't think there's much to comment there. I would say I would rank Volume 1 the best, with Volume 3 the second, and the worst one being Volume 2. So at this point, if you purchase them separately, you are at $60, or if you purchase the pack, that has the 3 volumes, which I think it's being sold for $50. I do think it was worth the price. I mean, you get 12 to 15 hours of story, which is not bad story. It's really okay. The animation I feel is really nice and really good to look at, so that's a bonus. And if you're a fan of, the Battle Operations 2 combat, then of course you will enjoy the gameplay. Plus you get Combat Simulator, which again, you get to unlock a lot of mobile suits that you can just play around and use. Of course, if you don't like Battle Operations 2, due to its gameplay, or you just don't like the characters, the art style, the coloring, I feel this game won't be for you. I think though the game does a decent job of setting, a base example. Hopefully for the next story game, they get to actually build upon, this. And I hope they improve in the areas that they were lacking in this first story game, such as the pacing of the story, and of course, there's always room to improve the gameplay. So, what are your thoughts? Have you tried Gundam Battle Operations Code Fairy Volume 3? This has been Oblivious Gamer, and I hope you'll have a wonderful day or night, wherever you are.